really slow. And then sometimes it's like, bam, it's live. Yay. I am not by myself anymore. Oh my God. It's been since episode 190, I think, when MJ was the last person I was with. So it's been over 12, 14 episodes all by myself. I feel like Jack Nicholson in The Shining. It's like, but no, Jerry's back. So yay.
Hi.
Yeah. It's been a unusual summer, and we don't have to get back into it again. But Jerry's had a very unusual summer, and
yes. Oh yes.
But the good news is it is August 18th, which means that fall is literally only about a month or so away.
Yeah.
So
we're going to the beach tomorrow, so quiet with the fall.
It's going to be a nice weekend, though. You're going to have a really nice weekend up there.
We're just going for like the day, just for a couple hours. Yeah.
Yeah, I just got back from my my week-long vacation at the beach, which was fantastic.
Awesome. You guys got good weather and everything?
We got enough good weather. We had a lot of early rain and then cloudiness for a lot of the day, but it was still not total washouts. I don't think we even had a total washout the whole, but we had rain in the evening, rain in the morning, and then there were 2 days it was just absolutely perfect, pristine, and it was cooler than we usually been. Usually we're at the beach, it's like in the 90s and brutally hot. It was like in the lower 80s. And just low humidity. It was really, really nice. So
the summer has been really cool. Like August has been cold.
Yeah,
we had like some 70-degree August days. I was like, whoa, August is supposed to be like in the hundreds.
I was looking at the advanced weather, and about 10 days from now, it's going to be in the 70s again. I was like, wow, that is really interesting.
Yeah.
So, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about what we do best. This is Dylanknows. This is our list show. The list show is where Jerry and we come up with a topic. This is a topic we were going to do back in May, but things came up, and that's cool. It happens. So we're going to finally hit it. It is 25 years ago was the year 1992. I remember it very well. I was in college. It was the second part of my freshman year, so I'd already gotten my first taste of college out the door. So now I was settled into routine. I did my first play in college, which was fantastic. I met a group of really good friends from doing that play, and we were kind of tight for the rest of the year. And the Orioles, my baseball team, they're awesome. Camden Yard Stadium opened 25 years ago, 92. So that was nice. And I had a nice vacation to Boulder that year and in Yellowstone. I'd never been there. So 92 was a good year for me. What about you, Jerry? Anything you remember about 92?
I think we're the same age, so that was also my second half of freshman year. Yeah, because I started college in 91. Yeah, it was great. Like you said, the fall was for sort of adjusting, acclimating to college, and then that spring was just like having fun and knowing how to balance school with fun times and social times, and just really loving that you're in college and finding your little niche in your little world there. So yeah, I liked it too. And there were a lot of great movies in 92.
Yeah, and there was some great movies. To segue, there were some great movies in 92. And that's what our list is. We're going to do the top 10 films of 1992. Now, again, as I always have to state on this is Jerry and I's opinion. These are films that we've seen. Now, there's probably a bunch. There's a bunch of really good 92 films, but some of them I haven't seen, some Jerry hasn't seen, or there are some that, these 10 that we picked, we just like slightly better than maybe these other ones. These other ones might be in the 11 to 20 range or whatever, but we want the top, the creme de la creme, the top films of 92. But as we always do, because we're glutton for punishments, I guess, we do both have an honorable mention. So without further ado, let's get into the honorable mention. So Jerry, what's your first honorable mention?
Okay, so my freshman year of high school, we had to read a lot of different books in language arts, English, and one of the books I absolutely loved and read was Of Mice and Men. And in 1992, Gary Sinise and John Malkovich actually did a movie, Of Mice and Men. So I made that my honorable mention, but just because I love the book, I love the story so much, and George and Lenny and the rabbits and everything else that comes along with it. So I wanted to kind of give that movie a shout out because I was excited about seeing it to sort of see how it translated, onto film versus when I read it back at my freshman year.
And from what I recall, it was an excellent adaptation of it.
Yeah, it was pretty accurate too. Yeah.
and I think Sinise directed it also. I think he directed himself. So that was, yeah, that is, I actually, I hadn't seen that in a long time, but I did see it, and it didn't make my list. But yeah, that was a really good, and I liked the book, and it was a really good movie. I mean, it was very well cast. I thought that they both did an excellent job. And at the time, and this is actually a segue to what my honorable mention is, Sherilyn Fenn plays the woman who is kind of the flirty woman who, unfortunately, something bad happens. If you haven't read or seen the movie, I'm not going to tell you what happens, but it's something bad happens. That's all you need to know.
Lenny was a bad boy.
He was a very bad boy. But to be fair, he didn't know any different. So, but the reason why it's a segue is because even though she was not in my honorable mention, she was in the show that preceded it, which was before it, which was Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks had burst on the scene in 1990, 91-ish, and became a huge pop culture phenomenon. And then the second season came, and America was not ready for David Lynch unhinged second season. And after people pressured ABC to have them reveal who the killer was, because Lynch didn't want to reveal who the killer was at all. He wanted to keep the mystery going. He was forced to wrap it up. And then after that, everyone's like, okay, we find out what happens. And they left the show. And then David Lynch was like, you know what? I need to direct a movie. He left the show. So it was held together by a bunch of okay people, but the middle half of the second season of Twin Peaks is absolutely horrendous. And then David Lynch came back in time to save it with the last 3 episodes were really, really good. He ended on a cliffhanger, which I just have to mention this because the 3rd season is out. This started in May. It's getting ready to wrap itself up. The 3rd season has been extremely amazing for me. I've absolutely loved every minute of the new season of Twin Peaks, but we're not here to talk about that. So it ended on a cliffhanger, and then David Lynch still had one more story he wanted to tell, so he decided to make a movie called Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, and it came out in the late summer of 92, late August, early September, and it got horrendously booed at Cannes. It got very little money made, and at that point, Lynch was like, okay, I'm done with everything. And when I saw it, it was okay at the time, because what it did actually was basically he did a prequel. So basically he followed Laura Palmer's last 7 days on Earth. Instead of wrapping up the storyline that ended on a cliffhanger, which people were still freaked out about, he didn't answer the cliffhanger. Instead, he decided to go back to the beginning and do a prequel with a little bits and pieces here of stuff that we knew from what happened. Like Dale Cooper was still stuck in the Black Lodge, and so he appeared in the Black Lodge a few times. There's a few other things as well, and that's all coming to play now in this 3rd season. But when they announced Twin Peaks was coming back 25 years later, I decided to go back and rewatch what I could, and I rewatched Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me again. And to be honest, I think it's underrated. I think it's actually a very good film, though I don't think it's quite as good as these other 10 I have, but it's got enough of I remember what I didn't like about it. Now it doesn't bother me as much, and now in the context of what's going on in the 3rd season, it's a lot more important to see this film. So Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me is my my honorable mention. So after that note, let's start with number 10. So number 10, right. Jerry, what you got?
Well, my number 10, unfortunately, is very what's the word I'm thinking of? Very in tune with what's going on in the world today. Ironically, what's going on in our country today. And it was a little movie called School Ties. If you remember School Ties, starring Brendan Fraser. So Brendan plays a boy named David Green, who receives a football scholarship to a prestigious prep school, and it takes place in the 1950s. Only problem is he's Jewish, so he has to hide the fact that he's Jewish in order to go to the school. Everything's fine. He plays along. He becomes a really great player. He gets a lot of, he becomes like the big man on campus per se, and a lot of prestige. And then sure enough, it's discovered, his background's discovered, and everybody at the school just completely turns on him. And it's just this whole idea, like, he gets the threats and ridiculed and what have you. And it's, it's just so fitting with, unfortunately, what's been going on in the world, and like, what happened last weekend in Virginia. Like, doesn't matter if it's 1950, 2017, there's still people out there who want to only surround themselves with certain types of people and not be open to, everyone being different. So yeah, School Ties.
Yeah, that's an excellent movie, and it shows that Brendan Fraser was actually a really good actor. I mean, this is something.
Oh yeah, this was like yeah.
It was. I mean, you think of him as Encino Man or George of the Jungle or the guy from the Mummy films, but then he does School Ties, and there was and then he did in the late '90s the one where he played the guy who James Whale, the director of the Frankenstein movie, was in love with him in a biopic, and that was Ian McKellen playing that. I forget what that was called, like of like a Men and Monsters or something like that.
Right.
But he has the potential. He had the potential to be an excellent, actor, and this film shows a very good wide range of acting that proves that he wasn't just this pretty face Keanu Reeves type, because Keanu Reeves has also been able to segue into kind of more of a dramatic roles and stuff like that, and show that he's got a little bit of range also. Sure. This showed Brendan Fraser's range also, and it is a brutal film, and it is a tough film, and I agree. It belongs on the list, but I didn't put it on mine just because it was just one of those. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean though. My number 10 is kind of a departure. Speaking of trying to segue into different genres, I bet you didn't know, or maybe you did, that Chevy Chase actually made an action film called Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
Yes, I knew that. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I know that movie.
Yep, John Carpenter directed it. Daryl Hannah is the love interest in it, and it was actually something that is unlike really. You think it's going to start off as something like a regular, typical Chevy Chase type of film. He's kind of that suave, drunky type of guy who's womanizer or stuff like that. And then what happens is he goes out, he meets Daryl Hannah, who's stunning in the film, and he starts a flirtation with her, and then he gets a little too drunk, and then he ends up taking the wrong turn and ends up falling asleep in a weird laboratory where they're experimenting on these like laser thing, and they don't know he's in there, and then they shoot him and he turns into the Invisible Man. So it's a John Carpenter film, the guy who directed Halloween and The Thing and all that stuff. So he's trying to make like a comedy, but at the same time, there's not a lot of comedy in it. Sam Neill plays the bad guy. Michael McKean plays one of Chevy Chase's best friends. And it's more of an action film where when they discover that this guy is invisible, they want to use him to like take over governments and stuff like that, because he's invisible. He can do whatever he wants. Now, John Carpenter did an excellent job, which is one of the reasons why it's on my list, with the way he uses the Invisible Man motif type of thing, because you hired Chevy Chase, who at that time is still a pretty big actor in the early 90s. And you want to show him on screen. But if he's the Invisible Man, how are you going to show him? So what they did is, and this is really kind of a neat idea. It's kind of similar to the idea. What they do is when you have two foreign countries, like say a Russia and a France or something like that, and they're having a conversation, you don't want to have people read subtitles, for God forbid it's reading, So what they do is they start off speaking in their foreign language, and the camera like zooms in on their mouth, and then it comes back out and they're speaking English. Right. But at the same time, if you go back, you hear them speaking their foreign language. So basically they're speaking their language to each other, Russian and French, whatever, but we're hearing it in English.
Yeah.
Carpenter did something similar. So what he did was he showed Chevy Chase when he was invisible. But then he would cut some scenes where you couldn't see him. So there would be scenes where, like, a scene that always pops into my head is he's in bed with Daryl Hannah, and they're just sort of, they're cuddling or whatever, and they're having a little flirtatious pillow talk type of thing. And you see him, he's like spooning her, so he's like talking to her over her shoulder, and she's lying on her side, and they're having this cute conversation. So you see him, and then you cut back to another shot, and then you just see Daryl Hannah by herself, you know, and then you hear his narration overhead. So it was just, and he used that a bunch of times, and then they even got him into the whole wrapped up in the bandages and the suit and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of a different take for Chevy Chase. He's done action films with the Fletch movies and stuff like that, but this was something slightly different. And to get John Carpenter to direct him, it was refreshing, I guess is the proper word, to see Chevy Chase do this. And there's always talk that he was miscast. I don't think he was miscast. I think he was actually did a very good job in this. And he surrounded himself, as I said, with a great cast: Sam Neill, Daryl Hannah, and Michael McKean, just to name a few. So that's my number 10.
Nice. Good one.
Thanks.
My number 9 is a bit of a dark comedy, and it is Death Becomes Her.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a novelist who loses her man to a sexy movie star. And also was also her friend. So, you know, the two of them get together, and she winds up going into like a psych hospital, psycho place, because she can't take what happened. And then you cut to, it's years later, and she comes back to see them. And, you know, they're married now. They've kind of continued on with their relationship. And she comes back, and she is absolutely gorgeous. And we're talking like, whoa, like, what did you do, gorgeous? So the ex-wife befriends her again, or starts talking to her because she wants to know what her secret is. Like, how are you doing this? And it turns out that she's using this mysterious drug that's granted her eternal life, as long as she just keeps drinking it. So then the actress is like, well, I want to do it too. So then the two of them, they keep having to drink the potion, and then all this like crazy stuff happens because they need to get that potion to stay immortal no matter what. And poor Bruce Willis in this movie. That's all I'm gonna say about it. It's very, very funny.
Yeah, poor Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Stuck between Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's really bad for him. But yeah, to be fair, yes.
It's like kind of this like nerdy, like come in over my head kind of thing, you know?
Zemeckis is God. Robert Zemeckis is one of the greatest directors of our time, and I'm going to keep saying that to the end. And this was at the time in '92 was a game-changing thing he did, you know, particularly with, you know, when it gets violent and they start trying to kill each other, and the holes in their bodies and their heads twisted around, but they're still alive and they're just talking. It's like, how the hell is Meryl Streep looking around her back but still alive? How is that possible? How's Goldie Hawn have the big hole in her body and she's okay?
And you can see through it too, which is a cool camera trick for '92.
Exactly. So, I mean, it is, and to be honest, this would probably be like 11, 12 for me. It is a great movie, and it's just, I haven't seen, it's one of these, I need to revisit it. I haven't seen it in a while. I need to revisit it again because it was such a good movie. Oh my God, it was so good. And as I said, you know, anything really that Zemeckis does is amazing, particularly in the late 80s, early 90s. Some of his later stuff, when he decided to do some of that motion capture animation, while I still will say that I love the Polar Express, it's still the eye thing. Just he just didn't quite get the eye thing down, and they look like soulless demons doing a Christmas movie type of thing. And it's like, okay. And then, but the good news is he's come back. I haven't seen any of his newer films. You know, the one he did with Brad Pitt, Allied or something like that, which was a World War II one, and I didn't see the Denzel movie Flight, which I think I should probably jump into.
Oh, that was really good. Yeah, see it if you get a couple free hours something one afternoon.
Zemeckis is still one of my all-time favorite directors, and that's Death Becomes Her. Oh my God, such a great film. I love it. My number 9. You're gonna laugh because you always laugh at me.
Yeah. I know what it is.
It's Buffy Vampire Slayer. But it's not Sarah Michelle Gellar Buffy. This is
you're
Buffy.
cheating.
This is the first Buffy with Christy Swanson, Luke Perry, Paul Rubens, Rutger Hauer, even who's the chick who won the Oscar? She's in this also. The female who won the Oscar for the boxing movie. No, who won the boxing movie?
Kristen. She was married to the Haim brother. She was married to Chad Haim.
The movie she did with Clint Eastwood. Yeah. Okay.
Oh my God, what's her name? It'll come to me like as you're talking. It's making me nuts. Oh, Hilary Swank.
Hilary Swank. Yeah, she's in this as well, playing a Valley girl, and she's actually technically one of the bad guys. I mean, not the main bad guys, but she's one of the bad guys because she turns on her friend. And then Donald Sutherland is fantastic in it. Again, a great cast. This is Joss Whedon wrote it, but this is before Joss Whedon was Joss Whedon. And so it's amazing he was able to get a film greenlit called Buffy the Vampire Slayer in 1992.
I remember thinking that was such an odd title. Like when it came out, I'm like, what?
and Joss has gone on record to say the reason why he did the TV show is because he wanted to go like the TV show was. He wanted to make the movie a lot darker. But at the time, with the cast that they had assembled, they're like, you know what? We gotta make it funny. It's Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's the name of the film. You gotta make it funny. But it is in the end. It actually is a very entertaining film. It's a lot of fun. It has it actually has a line in the film that my dad actually laughs at every time he hears it. We've watched it a couple times together before earlier in the 90s. But it's just one of the best lines in the world, where one of the basketball players has been turned to a vampire and he's playing a basketball game and he doesn't know how to play the game. He's like trying to freak out the opposing team. And one of his teammates is like, yeah, it looks like he's abandoned the concept of zones. And my dad always cracks up when he hears that, because in the context, it's actually a very funny line. And what I also liked about it was I liked the fact that Luke Perry, who at the time was Dylan McKay in 90210 and was the Studley, James Dean-esque bad boy type of thing, he plays kind of a wimpy character, and they flip flop it, where he's the one who's always getting into trouble and he has to be saved by the woman, and that's actually very funny. Yeah, and then you get David Arquette in there as well. So you just got a great cast assembled for this. And it's a lot of fun. Now, it goes a little off the rails with Paul Rubens when he gets staked and he does his little expanded death scene, which is like, that got to be a little ridiculous, because up to that point, his character was actually really, really good. Now, people still remembered him as Pee Wee Herman, and I think this was either right around the time or right before or right after he had his sex scandal thing where he got caught in graphic theater. So this is kind of the way to get him back into the limelight, but it didn't quite work out. But it's such a fun film, and it's just fun watching Christy Swanson, who is completely different than Sarah Michelle Gellar. You get to see how Buffy started as being the California girl. Oh, and then turn and then realize that, oh my God, was I actually like that before? She changes. She has a physical change in her body and in her mind, and she changes from this horrible Valley girl, who Hilary Swank does a fantastic job of playing, the horrible Valley girl, to someone who's like, you know what? There's more to life than wearing makeup and being popular and all that stuff. So it was something. Now, the one little thing I wanted to tell you about, a little anecdote about it, was I mentioned earlier, this was my trip. This was the summer I went on my trip to Boulder, Yellowstone, and Jackson Hole. When we were in Jackson Hole, they had one movie theater, and it played two films. So it had two theaters, two screens, and one of the films was Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I don't know. It's one of those weird things that you just always remember. It's just because it's such a weird name, and you see it on the marquee, you're like, Buffy the Vampire Slayer? What the hell is that? And then meanwhile, you're surrounded by all these glorious mountains and the giant Elkhorn arch, and it's like, you know what? Screw this movie place. I want to go see some sights. And Jackson Hole is really nice. If you can ever get out there, Jerry, Jackson Hole is really, really nice. And it's crazy. Jackson Hole is at the bottom of Grand Teton. Now, Grand Teton's a national park that's sort of connected to Yellowstone. So you can take a road from Jackson Hole, go hang out in Grand Teton for a few days, keep going a little while longer, and then Yellowstone is like right next to it. And then you get into Yellowstone, and then you can, if you go through Yellowstone, you get into Montana. So it's really kind of neat.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, it was one of my favorite vacations I ever took. And it's one of those that one of these days, maybe when the kids get a little older and we get a little bit more moolah, that's the trip I'm going to take the family on. We're going to redo it. We're going to get all the old cruiser out, and we're going to drive to Wally World. And
Good Lord.
So that's my number 9.
Oh, brother. Poor kids. Okay.
Whew, I've missed this.
Okay, Clark. All right. My number 8 is a more sentimental movie. And it takes place during World War II, when most of the men were off to fight war and were drafted, and they needed to sort of keep boosting morale for the people that were still hanging out here in the States. So they decided, hey, let's put together a professional all-female baseball team. The movie is A League of Their Own. And it's a great, great, great film. It was a true story. It was a true league. The two sisters, Dottie and Kit, they're played by Gina Davis and Lori Petty, who they both did a fantastic job. Great, great cast in this movie. Gary Marshall is like the kind of crunchy old publicity guy. And then you had John Lovitz, who was I have it all written down here. He was the scout. And he was just like, oh my God, to round up all these girls that are going to play baseball. And then, of course, the best was Tom Hanks as the There's No Crying in Baseball coach. And then, of course, Madonna and Rosie, who were BFFs forever back in the day. Back in '92, they were best friends. They were all part of this team. And then Madonna also got like a hit song, This Used to Be My Playground, which is sad because then they, of course, do the montage at the end and you actually see real photographs and footage of, back when these actual women did play the sport. And for this one season, it was just this really lovely time in the country where these women could get together and travel and play the sport and just kind of gives everybody something different to think about because, the war and the stress and what have you. So definitely had to be on my list. So League of Their Own.
It's higher up on my list.
Okay.
It's on mine too. It is. It's the film that saved Tom Hanks and has turned him into Tom Hanks. Because up till 92, he had big in 89. And after that, he was just going on a downward spiral, Bonfire of the Vanities and a few other stuff were just terrible movie after terrible movie after terrible movie. And he had no idea what was going on. And so everybody was like, he was interesting and big, but, he's sort of flaming out now.
Right.
And then Penny Marshall, who directed it, is a friend of Tom's and said, you know what? Why don't you just come in? There's no pressure on you. We've got all these other awesome actresses in this film, and this is a minor role. And why don't you just come in and we could just use you to come in? And he nailed that role. And that was what set him, on the path. So that period after this film, you've got Philadelphia, you got Forrest Gump, you got Apollo 13. So he started just hitting bam, 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 bam. And it was because of League of Their Own. And Gina Davis, these girls actually, no, I shouldn't say girls, these women, they went through actual baseball camp to make sure that they were first of all, they were bonding as teams so you could prove on the screen that they were teammates, and also to make the sport look like they really knew what they were talking about. So the batting, the throwing, the pitching, all that, they had to go through spring training to do that. And that's just an amazing, fascinating thing that they actually did that and went through that. And oh my God, the cast is filled with tons of fantastic actresses. And then the supporting roles of like the Gary Marshalls and the Tom Hanks and stuff like that is just amazing. And then also what's so cool about it is that the Baseball Hall of Fame a couple years ago, they actually opened up a wing for, you see that scene at the end of the film. There's an actual thing at the Baseball Hall of Fame for the women in baseball thing. And they came up again. They came up again a couple years ago, and they played on the field that's outside of the Baseball Hall of Fame. So they had like a game and stuff like that. So yeah, it was such great. And you know what? It was one of those films where, it's Madonna kind of playing Madonna, but at the same time, she actually looks like she's a baseball player.
Yeah,
she did good for him. Rosie is excellent as a baseball player. I think she would be absolutely perfect as a baseball player. And Gina Davis and Lori Petty just had the great chemistry because they were the sisters that you could see in Lori Petty's mind, what it's like, because my mom went through something similar. She has an older sister that the parents just lavished all their love on, and my mom always felt like she was a screw up. We know parents loved her as much, but to my mom's viewpoint, my older sister, Miss Perfect, you know, and this is what Lori Petty was going through. And this is not at all like a stupid setup for a movie to do tension. No, this is like a realistic sisterly, you know, relationship, because yeah, there are probably sister relationships that are really close and stuff like that, but you got to work at it. And you could see that, you know, after what happens in the end of the film, that they've jumped that their bitterness, and you know, Lori Petty's now got her own path now, and Gina's going back to doing what she prefers. So now they're going to be doing their own thing. Bill Pullman's in it also, which is great. He's a minor role again, plays Gina Davis's husband who went to war. So you know, and you even get Squiggy from Laverne and Shirley playing the playing one of the play-by-play announcers. So and God bless Gary Marshall. I say what you want about him. I loved his role as the guy who created this, and he had that perfectly gnarled, meanie type of grubby businessman type of thing, and that's Penny's brother. So it must have been so much fun for Penny to direct her brother to do that kind of stuff. So it is such a great movie, and I'll just mention it down. It's down further on my list, and we'll just cover it real quick when we get down there. I don't know if you've ever heard of this one. You surprised me with Memoirs of Invisible Man, but 92 also had a movie that I didn't see in 92, but I saw due to my lovely wife, who's one of her favorite movies. And the minute I watched it, I was like, why hadn't I seen this movie before? And it became one of my favorite movies also. It's Noises Off. You ever heard of Noises Off?
It sounds familiar, but I don't think I know it. Yeah.
It's based on a play that you can actually do, that they do in the theater and stuff like that. And it's a play within a play, if you get what I'm saying. It's about a group of actors who are putting on a play, but all the behind the scenes crap that's going on with relationships and stuff like that. It is a slapstick, you know, crazy romantic comedy. Silly, absolutely silly film. It is one of those films that you just throw it in there and just watch the brilliance. And they had such an incredible cast. Let's see if I can try to remember everybody. Michael Caine, Christopher Reeve, Julie, who was in Airplane. Julie,
the main girl.
Yeah, she was in that. You know what? I got to pull up, because this cast list is just.
She's Julie Haggerty. She's Lois's sister and Family Guy.
Julie Haggerty. I got to pull this up because this cast was just amazing, and it's, as I said, it's very slapsticky. It's very you know, not serious, but they're doing a play and then they screw up the play, and then there's behind the scenes stuff where it's just, I just got to get this up here. Sorry about that. I should have been more prepared, but you know me, I'm not Peter Bogdanovich.
I'm the nerd with the printout and you go right to your phone.
Peter Bogdanovich directed. I forgot about that. Michael Caine, Carol Burnett, Christopher Reeve, John Ritter, Mary Lou Henner, Nicolette Sheridan, Julie Haggerty, Mark Lynn Baker, and the final performance of Denholm Elliott, who died the same year. And
I missed that.
But don't feel bad, because I didn't know about it till like 2000 when Dawn's like, "You ever see this movie?" I was like, "Never heard of it," and she showed it to me, and it is. I think you would absolutely I think you would love it.
Sounds like something Ken would really like too. Yeah, we'll have to watch it.
It's very, I don't know. It's very, a lot of the humor's kind of bawdy. So,
that's okay.
But I'm just saying, from the kids' sake, you might just want to.
No, not the kids. Just
right, just you and Ken. Yeah, I think you two would love it. But I mean, the cast alone is worth it, and they're playing the roles of the actors. They got to do the roles of their film, or the play rather. And the play is stupid. It's one of these stupid play mistaken identity type of things.
Right.
And then you see the backstage stuff is where the real meat is, and just, you know, there's one guy is having an affair with this one, and she wants to be with this one, and he wants to be with this one, and this one's pregnant by this one, and this one doesn't want anything to do with that. But then you get like Michael Caine and Denholm Elliott, who are the older veteran actors who go just as nuts as like a John. And then you get John Ritter doing his physical comedy shtick, which is nobody can top. And then you get Christopher Reeve, who I guess you could. you should have known he was kind of funny because his Superman is very earnest and has a little bit of humor in him. And Speechless is another one of those great comics. He has tremendous comedic timing in this, and he's like the stuck-up straight man, but then you get in a little bit more into him, and then he starts losing it, and he starts becoming the crazy wild. It's just it's hard to describe how great it is. So Noises Off is and I think it was one of the things when I've talked to my friends, the plays I did in college. I'm still friends with a lot of the people I worked with, and we were discussing one day. I was like, you know what, that would be one of the plays we should have been trying to get our director to do as Noises Off, because I think we would have had a blast with that. But it's really hard though, because you're getting the behind the scenes, but you also have to do the actual play itself. So the set design would have to be a little creative.
It'd have to be like split, I guess.
Yeah.
So you see what's going on stage and then backstage. Yeah.
In the film though, it's a lot easier because you can move the camera and do all that stuff. So Noises Off is my number 8.
That would be interesting actually as a play. All right. My number 7 is every what do you want to say, 5 years, 10 years, SNL comes up with some crazy little skit or character, and then boom, puts them on the big screen. So in '92, they had these 2 little guys. You may have heard of them. I don't know, maybe they were still unknown, Mike Myers and Dana Carvey, and they were Wayne and Garth, and the movie was Wayne's World. Now, I was just telling Dylan before we started that when Wayne's World first came out on SNL, it annoyed me a little bit because Bill and Ted had just, come out. I forget when the first Bill and Ted was, late 80s or what have you.
Yeah, it was late, yeah.
And I just felt like they were very similar to them. They're sort of like these 2 high school buddies, but in Wayne's world, in SNL's world. So they were these 2 buddies, and they had a TV show, or like a TV show, I guess, and they filmed it in their basement. Public access. Yeah, and they filmed it in their basement, and they were like these 2 heavy metal dudes, and they were like really dorky and couldn't really get the girls, but yet they thought they were so cool. And then Garth is like the more feeble one, but they ended up making a big screen movie of this, and it worked. And what's funny is they got Rob Lowe at the time to be like, this is the producer of their thing, of their public access, but he's like such an asshole. And it's like, we haven't seen Rob Lowe like playing this type of role yet, because then he went on to do all the crazy things that Rob Lowe has done. But to see him do this was both like shocking and hilarious at the same time, and it just kind of fit in beautifully. So as he's producing them, he's also trying to steal Wayne's girlfriend, who's like the beautiful I forgot that girl's name.
Tia Carrere.
Yeah. She's gorgeous, and he's trying to steal her away while keeping them happy with their little basement show, what have you. And it's funny and it works. And you would think like this little 2-minute SNL sketch, no way you could stretch it into like an hour-and-a-half film. But they did it. Like to this day, people will still quote them. It's Wayne and Garth, and like all the crazy things that they did and said, and yep.
Again, it's higher up on my list.
Okay, good.
Because it was one of these. It was a shot in the arm, because at that time, no one had ever seen, like they'd seen the sketches on Saturday Night Live, and to be honest, we were just talking about Tom Hanks. Yeah. Tom Hanks was in one of the Wayne's World sketches on Saturday Night Live. He played like Garth's cousin or something like that, who was a roadie, roadie for Aerosmith. And it was one of the because Tom Hanks has always been a great comedian, so you got to see him do that. But then you're like, Rob Lowe, huh?
Right.
This was right around the time I think he had his sex scandal.
It was all sort of the same
year. Yeah, around the same time. So this film went a long way to putting him right back on the right path, because again, like Tom Hanks in League of Their Own, he was on the downward spiral after St. Elmo's Fire, the Brat Pack, all that stuff. His career was going in the toilet. Then he had this sex thing going on at the Democratic National Convention, and then all of a sudden he gets cast in this film, and he's the bad guy, but he's very charismatic. He's very he's not sinisterly evil. He's just and when he does get to the point where he sets out his plan, he says it with just such conviction and just in the Rob Lowe grinny type of thing. You're like, you know what? That's a good idea. You really got me good. You're really good at it. And it gave Mike Myers and Dana Carvey, who, you're right, they weren't quite Mike Myers and Dana Carvey at the time. They were still, you know, not unknowns, but they were one of the more popular comedic actors on Saturday Night Live, but they hadn't done really anything else after that. This film cemented that and gave Mike a chance to, you know, expand to the Austin Power films, which he did later on, and do the character stuff like that. And then just Dana Carvey just doing his little Garth type, which is which is such a great. And then you get, you know, you throw in a bunch of other. You get Ed O'Neill, who played Al Bundy, is the guy who works behind the donut counter at the donut place at Stan Mikita's. And then you got Tia Carrere, and then you got this other like I don't remember what his name is, but he's a character actor. You see him in a million films. He plays like Rob Lowe's right hand man type of thing. And then you get Alice Cooper to come in a cameo, which was a fantastic scene. The soundtrack alone is amazing. 92 had a great year of soundtracks. This film was a great one. The Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, which I talked about earlier, has a great synthy jazz score, which was really, really excellent as well. Another film down the line that I'm going to be talking about also had a really good soundtrack at the time. So the music played a big part in the film because you got a lot of the 1980s, early 90s heavy metal, you know, bands, because at that time, 92 was right around the time when grunge was starting to make its huge, you know, claws into the music world. So this was a chance for the people who grew up in the late 80s with the heavy metal a chance to relive some of that stuff with like the Alice Coopers and stuff like that. But the one scene, and I know you did this, Geri, the Bohemian Rhapsody. Did you ever do that in the car?
In the car.
The scene in one of the early scenes in Wayne's World is they've just done a show, and then they're on their way to the the club. They're going to the club.
Yes.
And they're driving, and Garth's the Mirth-mobile is what Mike Myers called it. Yeah, and it's like five. There's 5 people, 3 in the back, 2 in the front, and it's like their crew is like two of their crew from their show. Their drunk friend who has been wandering around the neighborhood, and they get him and give him a drive. And that's the other song. If you're gonna spew into this, and give him a cup. But then they get in the car. And as they're driving along, on the radio comes Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. And then you have, for about a 5-minute sequence in the film, a lip-synced version of by Mike Myers, Dana Carvey, and the 3 guys in the back. And it ends with the dun, 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 with them banging their heads in the back seat. Everybody, after they saw that scene, whenever that song came on the radio, they did it in the car because, again, I was hanging out with my crew from the play we were doing, and we had all seen Wayne's World, so we knew what was going on. And because Bohemian Rhapsody was a popular film, and it became sort of brought back into everybody's mindset, the radio started playing it more. So we were driving along. They played the song, and we did exactly what they did in the play and in the movie. So, yeah, Wayne's World. It was and I'm
sure the cops were thrilled.
We were on the way to Temple. I gotta tell you, I gotta tell you a story about Temple.
You were on your way to Temple.
This is the story I gotta tell you. I think you'll appreciate this. So. One of the guys I work with in the play, his role was like my best friend in the play. He was Jewish, and so we were talking like one of the early rehearsals, and I had, as I said, I just met these guys. They were a mixture of upperclassmen. I don't think there was any other freshmen in the film in the play. There was a couple sophomores and some juniors and stuff like that. So this guy was Rob was a junior, I think. He was a junior, he's a sophomore. He was a sophomore. And so we were chit-chatting, and we just finished our rehearsal, and he's like, hey, do you want to go to Temple with us? It's like, yeah. And then I'm like, being my naive stuff, I was like, no, I'm not Jewish, so I can't go to Temple. And Rob looked at me as like, Temple Diner. It's right down the street. I was like, oh, yeah, okay, fine, because I thought he was talking about going to Temple.
Going to like a mass.
Yeah, or something like that. I was like, no, I think we go home. I'm Catholic, you know. And he's like, no, Temple Diner.
You wouldn't have burst into flames if you had.
I've been
a couple times. I know. I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen to me, but everything was fine. We're here talking today.
But that's still one of the funniest things I'll ever remember that. And so Temple became our big hangout. So after every rehearsal, and then even
go to Temple.
Yeah, and even after our rehearsal, when we weren't rehearsing, we weren't doing stuff, we would still hang out and go to Temple. So, and we'd go, it's 24-hour diner. So college time, we'd go at midnight, 1 a.m.
Yeah,
and we'd still be wide open.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was great. So Wayne's World is your number 7. My number 7 is based on a popular novel at the time. It is the second movie of a series, but with a new actor in the role of the main character. The film is Patriot Games.
Oh, yes, Harrison Ford.
I loved Hunt for Red October. I thought Alec Baldwin was the perfect Jack Ryan, which is the name of the character that Tom Clancy wrote a series of books about. But when they came up with the idea for Patriot Games, Alec couldn't do it. He was doing Streetcar Named Desire on Broadway with Jessica Lange, so he couldn't do it. So Hunt for October was 1990, so they wanted to get people to remember it, or it was 89, 90, some of that. So they didn't want people to forget about it, and it was a moneymaker. So Paramount decided to recast the role. So who do they go to? Indiana Jones himself, Han Solo. You're at the time the biggest box office draw of all time, and guess what? He did 2 films, and both did bank to continue cementing his role as the biggest box office champion of all time. Now, Patriot Games, to be honest, I would have liked to see. I wish I could have seen what Alec Baldwin would have done with the character, because I think Harrison Ford was just slightly a little too old to play Jack Ryan. But when he got on the set and he did the role of Jack Ryan, and he did that in Clear and Present Danger, both those movies are excellent. He did an excellent job in it. And this film is one of his more, Hunt for October was such a big, wide-scale thing, with submarines and nuclear bombs in Russia versus the United States and stuff like this. This was more of an intimate story where Jack Ryan, being the good guy he is on vacation, sees somebody in trouble and saves them. It's actually like the Prince of England or something like that. And he saves them from IRA terrorists. And he gets shot for it and ends up killing one of the terrorist brothers. And the other terrorists get away. So the brother of the terrorist that Harrison Ford killed is played by Sean Bean. And he vows vengeance upon Harrison Ford and all his family and stuff like that. So it begins a cat and mouse thing where Sean Bean is threatening Harrison Ford's family, and Harrison Ford's like, I'm not going to take this crap, and fights back. And it becomes a little mini war between Sean Bean and Harrison Ford that other people get involved with. James Earl Jones reprises his role from Hunt for October. You get Richard Harris, who was Dumbledore in the first 2 Harry Potter films. He was fantastic as like an IRA leader who was, not a terrorist, but he was like the face of the IRA. Sean Bean, of course, is fantastic. Great Irish type of music in there as well, sort of a Celtic score-ish in there as well. And it's not Ann Archer. Or was it Ann Archer?
Oh, the wife.
Played his wife. She did a great job as well. And it's a great, and Samuel L. Jackson's in it also. It's one of his earlier roles also. It's one of his earlier roles. He's got the shaved head. He plays Harrison Ford's old buddy at the Naval Academy. And they actually filmed on the streets of Annapolis, which is really kind of cool too. So it's a great action film, and it's really intimate. It's close. It's not as worldwide and widespread as Hunt for October was, and what Clear and Present Danger became later on with the drug war story. This was more of an intimate one, and this is actually where I think was the absolute perfect vehicle for Harrison Ford to take over the role. There we go. Sorry, I froze for a little bit.
Yeah, you did that. I figured you'd come back.
So it'd be the perfect like character introduction of Harrison Ford as Jack Ryan, because it wasn't a big widespread story. It was a small one.
It wasn't like overwhelming. Yeah.
And the climax at Jack Ryan's house. in the middle of a thunderstorm where the electricity goes off is one of the best action films ever, utilizing the dark and closets and his house, which was his home base. So it's a great film, and that's why it's my number 7.
That's great. Yeah, that's a good one. That actually didn't make my list, although I did see it and I did really, really like it. All right, cool. My number 6 is a comedy, and I love this movie just because just so funny and different, and Whoopi Goldberg was able to just sort of like put herself out there and be Whoopi and have fun with it, and that was Sister Act. I don't know if you ever saw Sister Act. I'm sure you did.
Mm-hmm.
So she's this lounge singer named Dolores, and she's got a mobster boyfriend, and he's played by Harvey Keitel. And she witnesses this murder that he kind of like called, like he did the hit on. And so now she has to like go away. She's got to go undercover, go under witness protection because she saw this murder and she's got to be afraid of him. And his name is Vince. So she figures, okay, they're going to throw me in some like halfway house. They'll throw me out in the country. Kid won't be that bad. No big deal because he's like this sassy lounge singer. Nope. They make her go to a nunnery, to a convent, and she becomes Sister Mary Clarence. And life is boring and dull and quiet and calm. And she's in her little room with the picture of Jesus staring down at her or whatever. It's like this creepy picture. And so she can't conform. No matter what she does, she's like, nah, this isn't for me. She starts sneaking out. She starts hitting clubs. She starts bringing nuns with her. They all start getting in trouble. So finally, the main sister, played by Maggie Smith, I don't remember what her name was, the character, she's like, all right, I got to do something with this woman because, we promised we'd keep her undercover, but she's crazy. So let's put her in the choir. What harm can she possibly do in the choir? She's a singer, choir. All right. But then the movie starts to get very cute. That's sort of the turning point of the movie where she does sort of take over. She starts creating sort of like these remixes, if you will, where she blends the pop music with the gospel music, but it actually becomes so endearing and it's just so cute. And they come up with these little dance choreography and what have you. And because of it, more and more people start attending the church because they want to see what the choir is going to come up with their songs, and they gain popularity. But then the dilemma is, are they getting so popular that Vince and gang and crew will then come and find them? But you'll have to see the movie to see what happens. I just love the movie. It's cute, and it really gave her an outlet to just sort of do whatever she wanted to do and be Whoopi,
Absolutely, and it was and actually the sequel's not too bad also.
So they're cute. Yeah.
Teaching the kids, and I just you can't say enough. Whoopi is Whoopi. Whoopi's Whoopi. She was fantastic in it, and I'm trying to think of the other actress who's in that with her, not Maggie Smith, the other
quiet one, right? Then she starts singing.
Yeah,
she's got the big round eyes. I'm picturing her, but I don't know what her name is.
Yeah, but
really cute.
Kathy and Jimmy.
That's okay.
Yes.
Oh her. Yeah, I was thinking.
Oh, someone else. That's the one I was thinking. Of, Kathy and Jimmy.
She's great too.
She's great in it also, and Maggie Smith can't do any wrong. I mean, there's nothing she can't do. And it's great. Yeah, it's a great film. Didn't make my list, but it is a great film. Once again, it's probably gonna be one of those, the 11 to 20 range will probably be there. It is. Sure. It's a fun film. It's harmless. Harvey Keitel is great in it. He's always great in what he does too. It's a great film. My number 6 is the opposite of a comedy. It's the funny thing is I just noticed it's also based on a play, but you get a writer by the name of Aaron Sorkin involved and a director by the name of Rob Reiner involved. And then you get some actors by the name of Tom Cruise, Demi Moore, and Jack Nicholson. And you get a little movie called A Few Good Men. And I've had my issues with Tom Cruise before. But this film, he starts off as being Tom Cruise. And you're like, oh God, we're doing this again.
Yeah, here we go again.
and I think it has to do with not only he's a pretty good actor also, his ability to do some acting also, but you get Aaron Sorkin's fantastic screenplay. You also get Rob Reiner's stout direction, and you get surround him with actors. You get Demi Moore, Kevin Pollak, Jack Nicholson, Kevin Bacon is in it also, and you surround yourself with these. And the thing I liked about it also, while they had a flirtation, there was no romance between Demi Moore's character and Tom Cruise's character, which we've had this discussion before, where sometimes you don't always have to have a man and a woman have a romantic contact, and this is
refreshing when they don't. To be honest with you,
and I love the interaction between them. And then of course you get Aaron Sorkin's bam, 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 little stuff like that, and then Jack Nicholson totally chewing the scenery with and Kevin Bacon doing Kevin Bacon. He's doing what he does. He's a supporting actor. He's supporting it. Kevin Pollak the same way. He's the quiet one, but when you need him the most, he comes in and he nails the scene and does his role as his character's role. He's the quiet one, but then his character comes in and has his one big scene, and he nails it and gets the guy on the wall and stuff like that. So it's such a great film. It's one of these little intimate films also. There's not any action in it. I mean, it's a courtroom.
Isn't it mostly like a courtroom? I've actually never seen it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I know so much about it, but I've never actually watched it from start to finish. I mean,
everyone knows that you can't. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth, and that's actually. You see that sequence and you're like, okay, they're overplaying it over and over again. But if you continue with the scene, Jack Nicholson's continues with his speech, he sort of makes a good point. While yes, what he did is illegal, by I don't want to ruin it for you, but it has to deal with the death of a student, a military student on his watch. And it's just, and then it's heartbreaking also because you get the two young boys who are accused of it, played by Wolfgang Badiason and and I can't remember the actor's name, but he plays James Hurley in Twin Peaks, and so he was in that as well. They are very, they were just following orders, but then they find themselves, oh my God, we're being charged with murdering a fellow student, and what we did was, and it's heartbreaking because yes, it looks like who's supposed to win wins, but he really doesn't win because you take a look at the two students and what happens to them, and it's kind of heartbreaking. But again, Tom Cruise and Demi Moore have a really good chemistry, but I'm so happy that they never did a romantic entangle between them, because it's fun watching their little back and forth, because Aaron Sorkin's really good at writing those back and forths also. And Kevin Bacon, is Kevin Bacon, as I said, and Jack Nicholson is Jack Nicholson. So it's a great film and I highly recommend it. It's A Few Good Men. It is based on a play, and I haven't seen it on stage yet, but it would be one of those, it would absolutely fit in to a Broadway type of play, courtroom drama. So
awesome.
Very good.
Sounds good. All right, so now my list stops being funny and starts getting very dark.
Okay.
I did that right at number 5. So my number 5 was, it's funny because if this movie had come out like now in 2017, people would be like, okay, yeah, whatever, maybe a little bit of scandal, what have you. But in 1992, it was like, whoa. And I think you know which one I'm going to say. And that is this little film starring Sharon Stone, and it's Basic Instinct. So the kids watching today in 1992, when this movie came out, everybody was like, oh my God, because she was this total like sex siren. She plays this, oversexed psychologist, what have you, who's also an author, a novelist. She writes this crime story. And at the same time, her boyfriend, who's like this big rock star, I think his name, I wrote that, it was Johnny Boz, he gets murdered in their bedroom. And it's very similar to what she had written in her story. So then all eyes came on her. And then you have Michael Douglas, which, the chemistry between Michael Douglas and Sharon Stone was like through the roof at the time. Like he was very sexy and much younger back then, before Catherine Zeta-Jones and all the nonsense and what have you. So he plays the homicide detective that has to sort of take the case. He's also a recovering alcoholic, so he's got his own, fair share of issues. His ex-girlfriend is the psychologist who always has to like sort of check on him, make sure that everything's okay. But he totally falls for this chick, and they have this crazy sexual relationship, which again, 1992 people, it wasn't really seen or done then. And so this movie sort of like, I guess, burst out of the water, so to speak, in terms of like inhibitions and what have you, and really brought Sharon Stone out. There's also one scandalous little scene when she's getting interrogated by the police where she shows all of Sharon Stone to them. But yeah, it's actually a really cool detective story. It leaves you guessing. You're not quite sure. Is she guilty? Is she innocent? She sort of knows how to play everybody. Then as more and more people sort of die that are sort of affiliated with her and with Nick, Michael Douglas's character, you start to think, okay, well, maybe she did. Then you start thinking, well, maybe she didn't. And it's just very cool because, and then there came out, was there like one or two more after that?
There was one more, and it didn't. As you said, it came out like around in the 2000s where it wasn't scandalous anymore.
Right. And but I mean, the story itself, the premise was really cool, and it did keep you guessing. And then, you throw the sex in there, and so then that made everybody want to go and see it. So that's why I made it sort of like number 5, because it was sort of like this breakthrough film for that time period.
Oh, absolutely. It's a good way of looking at it. I still have some issues, particularly with the ending. I'm not a big fan of the ending because they leave it a little bit too ambiguous for me, and I don't believe and I guess maybe that's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to believe.
You're supposed to question it. Like, I think, like the whole movie, you're just constantly, you're questioning yourself. So I think maybe that's sort of how they wanted the ending to be as well. I don't know.
And I guess, look at it that way, then I guess it makes a little bit more sense. But to me, it still, threw me off a little bit. But yes, the sex scenes are amazingly hot. In fact, they actually have a uncut version, a director's cut, which adds another aspect to the sexual scene where you get a little bit more physical with things, a little bit more veering close to a pornographic sequence.
Wow.
In the film. It doesn't add anything else, I don't think, except for little bits and pieces here and there, and this one scandalous scene that's part of the major, because there's like one major big sex scene between Sharon Stone and Michael Douglas, and the scene that I'm talking about, they added to this sequence. It's a continuous leading to, it's like a foreplay thing, and that's what I'm going to say about that. Okay. But again, Paul Verhoeven was great. He's a director. He's from overseas, Germany or something like that. So was able to bring that, because foreign films, this is nothing. This is actually tame compared to what happens in foreign films. So Paul Verhoeven tried to break out and say, look, this is what we do in foreign films. Let's try to, break into your American sanctity and get you a little dirty, That's what he's trying to do. I mean, that's why he ended up directing Showgirls also down the line. But the thing is though, and it worked because he's a very stylistic director, and he was just coming off of a great film, Total Recall, which was fantastic. And so he did this one, and Michael Douglas is basically playing the same role he's played in Fatal Attraction, and he plays a few other times, but it's still Michael Douglas. Michael Douglas is still one of those really good actors that, he seems to always play the same role. But if you actually if you compare it to his role in Fatal Attraction and Disclosure and all that stuff, you see different sides to the character. On the surface, like, oh, he's playing the same role again. But then when you start watching a bit more, it's like, well, not really. It's a little bit different, and that's to Michael Douglas's talent, stuff like that. So that's a good one. And yeah, the sex scene, and was shit. Oh, I can't think of her name right now.
Jean Triplehorn?
Yes. No, not Gina Gershon. Yeah, Gina but isn't Gina Gershon, doesn't she play the girlfriend of...
The girlfriend of Sharon Stone.
Sharon Stone, yes.
Yeah, because when he meets them, she's like in this little lesbian, bisexual thing. Yeah.
And I felt bad for Jean Triplehorn because she's a good actress also, but her character just gets shit on.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But I guess
We know who needed that be on the spotlight.
Yeah. I know. You're right. Yeah, we do. My number 5 is I don't know. This is another one that I wouldn't be that surprised if you'd heard of it, but a lot of people don't know about this film. And this film I got from my mom, of all people. She was the one that she saw it, and she's like, you got to see this. And so I saw it, and I was amazed about how great it is. It's a movie called Thunderheart. Val Kilmer. Have you ever seen it?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it. Yeah. Definitely familiar.
I'll just give you a general basic understanding of it. The reason why my mom was into it is because it takes place on a Native American
reservation.
Reservation, yes, thank you. Native American reservation. A murder happens on the reservation, and I think there's actually it has to be it must have crossed state lines because the FBI gets called in. And Val Kilmer's character is part Indian. I know it's hard to believe he's blonde hair, blue eye, but he's got some Indian. He's got some Indian in him, and so he's called in to investigate this because the white FBI agents are like, yeah, well, you're a little Indian, you'll be able to talk to these people, and they're fairly racist. Sam Shepard plays his boss, who's kind of a dick FBI agent, but it's like his boss, and they go into the reservation to investigate this murder, and they run into Graham Greene's detective. He's a Native American police officer, so he's the guy who polices the reservation, and he and of course Val Kilmer, they don't hit it off right because Val Kilmer, he doesn't like his Native American side. He likes to hide it. He wants to come in. He's all right, we got to get this taken care of. I don't trust these people and stuff like that. But what happens is when he gets onto the land, the reservation, the more time he spends there, the more his Native American side starts saying, you know what, there's something going on here that we need to use our, that involves you and your family. So the Native American aspect of him starts coming out, and he starts having visions and starts, there's a wise man who says that he was prophesized to be coming to this reservation, and his arrival is going to, set up the beginning of a new age or something like that. And so Val Kilmer is still kind of confused by this. He's trying to solve this crime, and he begins to realize that everything he's heard about the Native American people being lazy and sloppy and vicious and drug addicted, stuff like that, is really not true. And he's seeing that everything he's heard from the FBI and all of his white friends like that is not exactly true. So he's starting to dip into the Native American thing, and Graham Greene is there to help him on this way. And so Sam Shepard, who, as I said, is the douchebag thing, and in the end, spoiler alert, he ends up being kind of the bad guy, not the one who did the actual murder, but he's the one who's sort of orchestrating everything. He's beginning to distance himself from Val Kilmer's character and starting to bring things up about it and try to, discredit him and stuff like that. But then, as Val Kilmer's still doing his job trying to solve this murder, he's digging deeper into what's going on in the reservation, and he discovers something that changes the whole ball game. And he discovers almost by accident. And the fact is, and then it just turns into this, sort of standoff between the FBI agents and the Native Americans over this death. And it still has, when I watch films over and over again, after I see the film for the first time and I watch it again, I like to take a look at maybe the way the director directed a scene or used music or whatever. There's this fantastic scene near the end where Val Kilmer and Graham Greene are surrounded by all these FBI agents and stuff like that. It looks like that it's over for them, and it's going to get ready. That it's going to get bad because it's like, we could kill you here and no one would ever know, that type of thing. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just all these Native Americans start popping up and surrounding the feds, and just the shot, that just this sweeping shot that the director takes of it is just one of the most wonderful sequences in film I've ever seen. So Thunderheart is well worth it. It's got a little bit of humor in it, but it is straight up action, sort of drama that takes sort of place in a Native American reservation, an area that normally doesn't see a little bit like that. And the storyline gets a little deeper outside. There's more to it than just the murder. There's other stuff going on. So it's really, really good. And I have to
Sounds awesome.
give credit to my mom. Still one of her one of her favorite films of all time. She'd probably make it number 1 on my list if we had on my list if we asked her.
That's great. That's fantastic. Hey, thanks, Mom.
Absolutely.
My number 4. Let's see what I want to say about this. So it starred Bridget Fonda and Jennifer Jason Leigh. Do you know what it is?
I do know what it is.
Is it on your list?
It is not.
It's not.
I know what it is.
Come on now.
But just wait till you hear what my top 4 are.
It's a little stalker film called Single White Female. And again, for 1992, this was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I saw it in the theater with my girlfriends. We're all sort of looking at each other like, would you do that kind of thing? So Bridget Fonda plays Allison. And Allison recently has split from her fiance named Sam. And he's played by Steven Weber. So she has this apartment now because he moves out, and she's like, well, what am I going to do? I'll get a roommate, why not? It'll be fun and kind of get my life put back together and, maybe have a girlfriend, that kind of thing. It'll be nice. So Jennifer Jason Leigh comes in as Hedra and becomes her roommate. And they become like really close really quickly. They become friends and everything seems to be going great. And then, Bridget Fonda one day, I guess, cuts her hair. And then the next day, Jennifer Jason Leigh cuts her hair. And before long, you begin to realize that she's totally trying to take on her persona. So at first, she's like kind of creeped out by it. But she's like, okay, maybe I should be flattered. This girl's very lonely and kind of odd. And we did become friends and we have this bond. And it's all cool until things take a turn for the dark. And we find out that Hedra starts hitting on Sam and wants to be with Sam now. And it becomes one of these like, not mistaken identity, but, like where it's like Bridget Fonda, the character's like saying to everybody, heeding the warning, like, watch out for her, watch out for her, watch out for her. But everyone's like loving her. They think, oh, she's so great. She's so cool. Even the fiance is starting to like fall for her and like her, and it's this whole mistaken identity thing where like they think she's awesome but really she's not, and then she becomes really crazy and violent. And I'm not going to give away the ending, but basically, it's Single White Female. She becomes totally obsessed with Bridget Fonda's character. And the other thing about Single White Female is back in the day, kids, before Craigslist and all the other ways that people communicate with each other, you used to have to buy this thing called a newspaper. And in the back was a section called the classifieds. And in the classifieds, you'd find like single white female looking for male, like, like a dating area. Mm-hmm. Or if somebody was looking for a roommate, single white female and search for another single white female or whatever. And that's how you communicated. So the title of the film was a play on the old school classifieds from back in the day. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Late 90s. Yeah. I used the personal ads. Yeah. Yeah. That was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. That was it. That was your, what's it called? Match.com, back of a newspaper.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And you had to pay per like letter to like create your little ad or what have you.
And then what we did, I used the city paper. I didn't use the Baltimore Sun, but city paper was one of these alternative. We still have it. It's still printed now. It's alternative newspaper, comes out every Wednesday, and their personal ads were a bit more. Well, you had your regular personal ads, and then you got the really freaky ones. I never did that one. You may say I never did that.
You read them.
Yeah, I did read them because you can't miss it. It's like there's the personal ads, and then let's see who's looking. Maybe someone is looking for a single white male just to have fun and sex and get drunk and do all this stuff. Hey, I could do that. Yeah, why not? Yeah. And then they also have the single male looking for single male, and then
so like every combination. Yeah,
absolutely. And we had to use a telephone. They had a phone service. You had to actually leave a message, say, "Hi, this is Dylan. I like long walks in the park and drinking pina coladas in the rain and stuff like that." And then you would hang up, and you would have a code you could get into your messages. And then exactly, yeah, it'd be like no message
or one
message, and it'd be like, "No, I don't like you. Not what I think." Boom. I don't like pina coladas. Boom, or something like that. To be fair, I did meet one woman through the personal ads. We went on one date, and that was it. I don't think she liked the idea that I didn't have a car and I was living at home. So.
Aw. Well, we all had to get our start somewhere. Come on now.
Yeah, we did.
Picky bitch.
But exactly.
Yeah.
But the Single White Female, I think, was actually one of the ones. I think it was the one that started this stretch of films in like the mid 90s where there was a lot, because it did so well, there were a lot of these different, house guests from hells or roommates from hell type of things, and they all did really well because of this film. So it's a good one. But yeah, again, it's just not.
Dylan doesn't like the cult classic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We already talked about my number 4. Number 4 is League of Their Own.
Okay.
I don't really have anything else to say about that, except a great movie. John Lovitz's character, even though he's only in it for like maybe 10 minutes, is
he's crunchy.
He's crunchy. All right, so you're number 3.
My number 3, you're probably not going to like because it's a Quentin movie.
Okay.
Reservoir Dogs. Yeah, see, I know. We'll skim quickly through it. So you got the 6 Criminals. I have to actually read it because I don't remember the last time I saw it, but it was one of those movies that it stays with you. It's pretty good. It's a good movie.
Well, don't get me wrong.
Listen to Dylan.
Real quick. I liked it. I just find a lot of Quentin stuff is overrated. This was actually, this being his first film.
Right. I was going to say, how the heck was this overrated?
It wasn't. No, this wasn't. But Pulp Fiction. I'm still bitter about Pulp Fiction, but go on. I'm sorry.
Anyway, so 6 Criminals. And they had like color names like Mr. White, Mr. Gold, Mr. Black. I don't remember. All
Mr.
different.
Pink. I'm Mr. Pink.
Yeah.
Why don't I be Mr. Pink? Why don't I be Mr. Pink? Why can't you be Mr. Pink?
They're strangers that are hired by a crime boss, and deliberately that way because he doesn't really want them to get to know each other, but they're all, they have to do the same thing. They have to carry out a diamond robbery. So they're given the false names like the Mr. Colors or whatever. Let's say they're sure the robbery is going to be a success. I wrote this down like a nerd, but the police show up at the right time at the site of the robbery. Panic spreads, and the group members, 2 of them get killed, and then along with policemen and civilians, and then the rest of them have to assemble in a warehouse and sort of go over what happens. And they think, okay, one of us has to be like an undercover cop or something's going on here. And from the warehouse till the end of the film, I think is the best part of the actual film. The dialogue, the tension, is it me? Is it you? No, it's you. It's not me. And they don't know what's going on. And I'm not going to give away the ending because it's a really awesome ending. But just the way Quentin is able to kind of build that tension, and they're guessing, they're second guessing each other. You're second guessing everything as the audience. I think it was just very clever. It was very cool. It was very different for its time. Really liked it, and that's why it's my number 3.
I don't hate Reservoir Dogs. I don't hate I don't hate Pulp Fiction. I just find it to be highly overrated. That's just my personal opinion. I love Jackie Brown, and everybody doesn't seem to even remember that he made Jackie Brown. Jackie Brown's a great film. I like the Kill Bill films too. I like them too. But I'm not a big fan of his more recent stuff. Inglourious Bastards.
You didn't like Inglourious Bastards? With the Nazis?
Yeah, I know, with the Nazis, yeah. And Brad Pitt's, yeah, it's just...
come on. That character was very clever.
No, it was. I'm not saying... I'm not... it's not my thing. But
you don't like Quentin.
I don't like Quentin.
You have a chip. But
I will tell you this, though. Reservoir Dogs, this is before Pulp Fiction. Reservoir Dogs is what got me into wanting to become a film director because
there you go.
No, as I said, I didn't hate it, Jerry. Because what it did was Quentin was a guy who worked at a video store, and he didn't go to film school. He did it on his own, and he was able to be as successful as he was with this movie because it's one of these films that, as I've talked about on my list already, you can make a Broadway show about because there's only really one sequence in the warehouse. You can make it set in the warehouse. You can have some other stuff happen. You can if you want to do the opening in the diner, you can do that as well. And then because what happens is they tell you everything that happens in the heist at the warehouse.
Yeah.
Now the thing that always gets me cringy about the movie is the torture scene, because I hate torture. I absolutely despise torture. And whenever I hear that freaking song anymore, I'm like, God, no, stop. But,
yeah, but they're mobsters, you know.
Yeah, they are.
And a little something in there.
But and it also showed a very realistic look about someone who has been shot and is suffering blood loss and pain. Tim Roth's character was shot during the heist, and he's bleeding out, and we know he's going to die eventually because there's no way he can survive the amount of blood that's losing, and he is showing signs of pain, and you don't see that in films because someone gets shot, is like, oh, and then next thing you know, or they die, or next thing you know, they're like in a chair, they're like, oh, what's going on, and they start beating him up or whatever. They forget all about that he was shot and he's losing blood. This sequence is a realistic depiction of what happens if you actually were shot and you were bleeding out. Now, again, Harvey Keitel, fantastic. Tim Roth, fantastic. Steve Buscemi, fantastic. Michael Madsen, who still drives me absolutely cringy with his torture sequence. Quentin being Quentin. And then Chris Penn, Sean Penn's brother's in it also.
Yes,
I'm trying to remember who else I'm missing. I feel like I'm missing somebody else, but I don't know if I am actually. I don't know if I'm missing anyone else. But again, he was able to bring about a really good group of people, actors. The fact that he wasn't a big time filmmaker to make this film with these actors, and look, as I said, it's a very cringeworthy film for me because of the torture sequence, because of the violence and the utter realism of the sequence of events, and I like, and again, that's one of the things that Quentin's interesting about, is that his use of messing around with time and flashbacks and stuff like that. He's pretty good at handling that. So, but I would say if we did an 11 to 20, it would be in my 11 to 20. So,
okay.
Yes, it would be. So, I mean, as I said, I don't hate Reservoir Dogs. I just think that everyone just loses it over Pulp Fiction. I was like, it was okay. I mean, it's not insanely crazy. I hope this one's on your list, and I think it might be. Though you said you're taking a dark turn. We'll see.
I know what it is.
All right, what is it?
My Cousin Vinny.
Ah, you got it.
It's on my list.
Okay, good.
But I would say my dark turn twists back around.
Ah, good. Excellent. Good.
Yes. Of course it is.
It has to.
Come on now.
It is going from the mobsters and Reservoir Dogs to Joe Pesci, who always plays mobsters, instead is now playing a small-time New York lawyer, and he's actually, it's like, I think it's really, I mean, he showed a little bit comedic timing when he did Home Alone, but this is like the first time, it's a little bit different. This is the first time you actually get to see Joe Pesci's funny.
Yeah.
Not like a clown, not like
he was funny in Easy Money.
Yeah, he was.
Remember?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. But
he was young back then, skinny.
Yeah, but this is a film that brings him to the forefront, is that he's a character actor, and they got him to be the lead in this film, and he nails the role. He does it. And he gets
Marissa Tomei.
Marissa Tomei, thank you.
Now.
I'm getting old. She's sexy Aunt May. Yeah. I was gonna say sexy Aunt May.
Now he is in love with her. It's obnoxious. He's like he's in love with her the way you're in love with Buffy. With her Sarah Michelle Gellar. Yeah. Yeah, that's Ken's.
His big crush. Okay, yeah. But she's fantastic. You know what?
Yeah, she got the Oscar for it.
Yeah, which is what drives me absolutely bonkers, is that everybody jokes that Jack Palance, when he was the one who awarded her the Oscar, that he was just kidding around. They thought, oh no, because she was going up against Helen Mirren and Meryl and all these other, and to have Marissa Tomei, who no one's really ever heard much from, steal the Oscar from them, it's unthinkable. And that's what they all thought, that when Jack Palance was reading, he's like, Marissa Tomei, really? And he made it as a joke. But the thing is, as we saw in last year's Oscars, if there's a mistake, guess what? They're going to come out and say, no, you're wrong. Yeah. They didn't say that. They said she won it.
She was just so refreshing and original. Like, you couldn't ignore her role in this. But I'll let you. Yeah.
No. You're absolutely right. That's exactly and here's the thing. Also, you can also make the case. Well, the other actresses, they were all voting against each other, so Marissa was able to sneak in. No, she did a great job because
it was sincere too.
Yeah. you think it's a typical, okay, she's a typical little, it's his girlfriend type of thing, whiny type of girlfriend, but she actually has a very interesting character, and she stands by him, but she's also doesn't take any of his crap, and will get in his face about doing stuff. And then it's such a great idea, a New York lawyer who's never done a case before in his life goes to save
he's not really a lawyer, but yeah,
he's not really a lawyer, but goes to save his cousin, who could get the death penalty, because people mistook him for someone who killed someone in the South of all places,
right?
And
they're Brooklyn kids, yeah. Yeah, it makes it worse.
and you also you can't discount Ralph Macchio either, because
he was great.
He hadn't heard from since the Karate Kid movies, and all of a sudden he comes in here. He's great also. But Joe Pesci and Marissa Tomei are the ones who stole the movie. They're the ones who it's on them. Their relationship is very realistic. This is one where, I'm okay with them having romantic entanglement because they're engaged. They've been engaged forever, and she wants to get married, and he's all, well, I got to win my first case, and we know he's kind of stalling at the same time. And then I think what's great is then he realizes during this, trip with her, and, the pressure that he's under, and to actually save his cousin's life, and and stuff like that, he learns more about himself and realizes that this is the perfect woman. I mean, she is supportive, she's helpful, she's sexy, whatever, and she loves me. And he begins to get this confidence up, and you can see it. And that's what's so great. When he starts off, he doesn't know really a lot about what to do in court. And then gradually, as the case goes on, you see him getting better and better. Yeah. And because he's studying, that's the other thing also, that, in typical movie fashion, like, okay, there's a montage, and he just all of a sudden is in movie land, he's able to automatically become a great lawyer. No, he's like reading.
You see him struggling. Yeah.
He's struggling, but he's also reading about the law. He's reading what he needs to do. So he's actually researching what he needs to do. So he's learning while on the job. And you get other great characters. You get Fred Gwynne as the judge, who's great. The two character actors, the one who plays the prosecutor, I can't think of his name.
The stuttering guy.
No, he was the one who was the defense guy. He was in there also. Guy. Okay. But yeah, the Southern boy.
The one that you love to hate.
But he's actually not a bad guy. Yeah. He's not like a bad guy, but he's a guy who's like, you're trying, you're wrong. We know you're wrong. They wouldn't kill these people, and you keep pushing that they are. But yeah, it is. I mean, it's just a fish out. It's a fish out of water story. Yeah. But it's refreshing, and it's different, and I just love when Marissa Tomei goes up onto the stand and is the one that solves the case, and it's just, this is so great, and is able to prove, and also when the prosecutor's like, I want to voir dire, and asks her this really hard question, and she just goes, well, it's and it's like, yeah, take that, son of a bitch, and the guy's like, no further questions. I think I'll accept her. Yeah, she knows what she's doing.
Yeah. What I liked about her too was that, like, Vinny knew that she would get that question right. Like, when she's like, it's a trick question. But the fact was, he had to like draw it out of her, and she was unwilling. And he had to tell the judge, make her answer the question. So yeah, she's supportive of him. At the same time, she's like, fuck you. You're going to have to work to get the answer out of me. Like, that I know the answer, but I'm not going to give it up so easy. So she's just sitting there with her arms crossed, like, yeah, whatever. And I just love that. Because yeah, like you said, she loves him, and she'll carry him, but she makes him work for it.
She has a great line to Fred Gwynne. Fred Gwynne's like, why can't you answer questions? Like, because I hate him.
Yeah, exactly.
I can understand the hatred. Yeah. It's just like, it's such a great little. Fred Gwynne just looks at the camera and says, I can understand that. Yeah, it's just really great.
Yeah. So she's like, you know what? You could go down with your cousin for all I care. Even though she knows the answer.
Right. It is, and that's what's great about too. I mean, the court scenes are great. The research he does, the fish out of water stuff, that god awful train that goes through at 3 in the morning every day. Come on, that's crazy.
And I love that by the end he like knows what good grits taste like too. That cracks me up.
And then, he used that in his defense. It's one of the great. Yeah, it is. It's a great sequence.
Because he used like enough butter and enough this, and like he totally knows how to make grits.
If you want to make great movie, doesn't it take 8 minutes and not
right?
Unless it's instant grits. No true Southern eats some instant grits, and then the whole jury's like, yeah, that's right. Well, then there's my proof right there. There's no way this guy could have seen these kids doing it because his grits were being
grits were cooking.
Oh my God, it is. Yeah, it is such a great.
Who wrote that movie? That was whoever wrote it did a great job.
I know Jonathan Lynn directed it, but I don't know who wrote it. I'll look it up real quick.
Had to have been somebody Southern.
I saw it in the movie theater, actually.
Yeah, me too.
I guess I just thought, I guess Joe Pesci, and it looked funny, and I wanted to go in and check it out. So that was, some of these I saw in the movie theater. Some I had to wait for video, but I actually did see them. All right, let's see who the writer is. Written by Dale Launer, who I've never heard of before.
Okay, so, Dale did a great job.
Yeah, he did a good job. He wrote Ruthless People.
Okay.
Blind Date and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Oh, wow. He wrote some great ones.
He wrote some good ones. So, yeah.
Go figure.
Good on you, Dale.
Yeah, seriously.
So what's your number 2?
My number 2 made me afraid of Rebecca De Mornay. Is that her name? Rebecca
De Mornay.
De Mornay for a very long time. I remember seeing this in the theater and thinking, oh, my God. It was The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Love that movie, but man, that was scary, and to see it in the dark theater was even more intense. So you have Dr. Victor Mott. He's like this really successful and respected gynecologist, but this woman comes out to say that he had sexually molested her, and her name is Claire. So Claire accuses him of sexually molesting her during one of her visits, and at first no one wants to believe her until 4 other women come out. And they say, yeah, he did it to me. So then this guy is totally shamed and found guilty, and he can't live with it. So he kills himself. Well, his wife at the time is pregnant, his widow. And, because they sort of they ruined him and ruined his reputation, she's on the verge of losing the house. It's so much stress. She's just become widowed, and she loses her baby. So she kind of loses it, and she snaps. So she decides, okay, I'm going to get some revenge here, and poses as a nanny. And there's no way for Claire to know that this was the gynecologist's wife, and takes the job because Claire needs a nanny, and comes in to be the nanny for her 2 kids. There's a little toddler and a newborn baby, and then seeks to get her revenge on them. Her bloody revenge on them. And I won't give anything away for anyone who hasn't seen it. It's just a really intense movie. And the whole time you're thinking, oh my God, what is she going to do to these kids? And will she actually do something to these children on screen? And of course, again, very similar to Single White Female, where she kind of gets in good with the husband so that it makes it seem like the wife is crazy when she starts to slowly suspect her, and then the best friend is suspecting things, and then stuff happens, and it's a really great, intense, suspenseful movie. And that's my number 2.
The one thing that really, one of the I hate to say best revenges she did to her was to breastfeed the baby.
Yes.
So that when the baby wanted to be fed and the mom fed it, the baby would reject it.
Yeah.
That is because then your newborn is rejecting you. That's fucked up.
Yeah. and the greenhouse.
Yes, the green. Yeah, that too. And her was that the scene with Ernie Hudson also?
With the best friend.
Black guy, yeah, the best friend. No, the best friend. Okay. Then there was also a time where Ernie Hudson was sort of that brain damage type of.
Yes.
She treated him like shit and stuff. Oh man, that was
yeah, that was an intense movie.
Well, yeah, that was, and that's sort of what I was saying when you were talking about Single White Female, that it's sort of that in this film, because as soon as you said Single White Female, I was like, I'm trying to remember, did Hand the Rock Cable come out in 92? That's what I was thinking when you were talking about that. And I was like, I was getting ready to say something, but I was like, well, I'm not quite sure. But then when you said it, I was like, okay, so it did come out in 92 also. So
yes.
it was, and it did well also, because it's one of those things that it was a new type of genre, and it was a way, it was something, as you said before, Single White Female, something you hadn't seen before. And then you see this one come out, or they came out around the same time, so that it was like a 2-shot, or it came out some earlier or later. I forget the actual times, dates, but it was enough that it was a year that people wanted to see that kind of stuff. And that's what led to some of these other films that were coming out in 93 and upwards. So, yeah, that's a good one. Rebecca De Mornay was one of those 1980s actresses I had to think for. That was late 80s
That was
thing.
before Buffy.
Yeah, before Buffy. Yes. My number two, we've already talked about, is Wayne's World. So that's my number two. So not much more you can say about that. They, as you said, they did a great job of doing that. They throw in, and then the three endings, you know, where you get the different endings, and then the bad ending, the Scooby-Doo ending, and the real ending, and everybody is friends at the end, and it's just it's so great. And then, you know, here's another thing. Lara Flynn Boyle, another Twin Peakser. So we had Lara Flynn Boyle. James Marshall was the guy from A Few Good Men. And then Sherilyn Fenn, and then Sherilyn Fenn of Mice and Men. They were all coming off of Twin Peaks. And so they were they were done. It's like, oh, we need a job now because we don't have a job on our TV show anymore. So it was good to see all of them again. So yeah. But yeah, that was Lara Flynn Boyle playing the ex-girlfriend of Wayne's, who was so obsessed with him. And I think the gun rack, I don't have a gun to necessitate a full rack. She's like, you don't like it? Well, you're just gonna lose me. And then she walks away. It's like, I lost you already. It's just one of the crazy psycho hose beasts, I guess is the thing. So, but yeah, they did a good job with that one. And then unfortunately, they turned into Saturday Night Live was like, hey, now we can make movies about all of our little and they didn't all quite work. Some were okay, but a lot of them were just like, really? Okay. So that was my number two, Wayne's World. So your number one is
My Cousin Vinny.
Aha!
Come on now. Of course that's to be that.
Is there anything else you wanted to say about it or add about it or talk about it?
I love how Marissa Tomei kind of keeps him on his toes all the way to the end. Like he's totally going to get prosecuted and lose this case. And she's like, no, you got to make it up to me before I let you win this. That just cracks me up about it.
Oh, I love the sequence at the end where he's like, well, you know what that means? I won my first case, and he's going to go ahead and get married. She's like, I think I'm going to marry your ass.
In the car. And he's like, well, just elope. And she's like, no, I'm having a wedding, and I'm having bridesmaids, and I'm having this, and I'm having that. She goes on. And it like comes to the credits.
And Joe Pesci's like, what are you crazy? You're an insane woman. You know, they have this argument and they're driving away.
They're back to like their old selves. Yeah.
and it makes you wish, you know what? I wish they would have done a sequel. Now, I know you can't always make a sequel about things, but I don't know how easy it would be to make a sequel.
We could do it now, like with 25 years later.
Yeah, exactly.
With like grown kids.
Yeah, to see how that worked. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
My number one mainly, and I think I might have talked about it before, but when we're doing a movie about 1992 or about the year 1992, I have to put this movie as my number one because it is 1992. It's the movie Singles.
Cameron, really?
Yeah, Cameron Crowe, 1992.
Didn't come up on any of my lists when I looked it up.
Well, I will verify that's 92 because
no way. It didn't come up.
Because to me, the reason why
that was a fantastic movie, and we were in college, and it sort of fit our whole where we were in life.
Right. See if it can come up with a movie. Yeah, here we go. Redacted from. Oh, come on, man! In film and television. Hold on. I hate this redacted thing because Singles, it could be anything. You know. Yeah. Yes, it's 1992 film. Yep.
It didn't
Singles.
Singles. I believe you.
1992 film. I can't get in there. But the reason why I put it on there is because when the movie came out, it was 1992. I mean, it was in Seattle where grunge was starting to spread out, and it was the main area of grunge, and grunge had now made its way across the United States. But Seattle was a place everybody wanted to go. Nirvana's from there, Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, all that stuff. So they wanted to go, and then Seattle had the quality that Portland has now. Portland, Oregon has now. It was like the hip place to be in 1992 with the coffee houses and the rock bands and the young professionals were starting off their career in their life. Gloomy weather, stuff like that. And it's everything about the film is 1992. So that why when you watch it again now in 2017, it hasn't aged well because it's 1992. And everything about it is 1992, but then you have to think about it's like, well, it's a snapshot in time about 1992.
Yeah.
So in that case, it's an okay film. I mean, the cast alone, Bridget
Matt
Fonda,
Dillon.
yeah, Matt Dillon, Bridget Fonda, Kira Sedgwick, Campbell Scott were the main characters. You had cameos by Tim Burton.
Wasn't Winona Ryder? Didn't she pop up in that?
No, Winona
No?
Ryder wasn't in that one. No, she
Oh,
wasn't in that one. She was in. I know. There is one she showed up in
where it's all
as a.
couples and yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
thought it was that one.
No, she was. It was Tim Burton cameo. The guy from 30 something, Peter Horton, was the bike rider. He was in it. Cameos. Jerry Piven had a cameo in it. Eric Stoltz had a cameo in it, which you wouldn't know. He was the mime, which was really funny. The mime they catch they find on the road, and the best line Campbell Scott has, you really shouldn't talk, because the guys are talking about how crazy things are, and then you get Eddie Vedder is plays a member of Matt Dillon's horrible band.
That's hilarious.
And that's what's great. Matt Dillon is it looks like he's having such fun playing this role.
Yeah,
he's
with the long hair and the beanie. Yeah.
He thinks he's a grunge rock god.
Right.
He's on par with Nirvana and Pearl Jam, and he really isn't. But he's a legend in his own mind. I just love it. It's like when they're reading the review of his concert, and he's like, don't tell me any bad news. And Eddie Vedder's reading, he's like,
yeah, can't say anything.
And besides that, he was ably backed up by Eddie Vedder and all these other guys. So he says, a good review for us is a good review for you. And it's just such a great line. And just filled with, fourth wall breakage, where Campbell Scott and Bridget Fonda and Matt Dillon all talk directly to the screen. I think Kira Sedgwick does also. They talk directly to the audience, and then you see their stuff. And it's just, they're young 20s, and it was 92. So we were, as I said, we were just in our, freshman year in college.
19, yeah, getting there.
So
getting there.
It's like, this is what we're going to be like in about 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why it became a great film. And the soundtrack was phenomenal, because again, grunge was such a big deal, and this CD is filled with grunge music, and it is so good. I mean, you get Screaming Trees, Smashing Pumpkins, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, you get all them, Chris Cornell. One of my favorite songs is from Temple of the Dog. It's Chloe Dancer, which is a great 8-minute film, or 8-minute song. It's fantastic, and it's just such a. And then the film itself, I mean, is a romantic life of young 20-somethings going out in the world, and they have their ups and downs, and not everything is good, and it's a realistic portrayal of life in 1992, and that's why I had to put it as number one on my list, because it is 1992.
Yeah, makes sense.
So that's my number one. So
awesome.
Yep. So I think that was a good time there. We had a couple of 1, 2, 3, about 3 of ours the same, so that's not bad.
Yeah, that's our kind of our par for the course, right?
Usually, yes, yeah. So, Jerry, I'm so glad you came back, and hopefully we'll be able to fit more regular appearances in. Hopefully, as I said, we'll keep in touch, and if you can't do it, you can't do it. There's no, I understand completely. But we'll see what we can do next month. We'll see what's going on with that. I have a few ideas, but right now I don't have an idea right off the top of my head, but there's a few I might send you in a couple weeks or so. And if you have any, let me know as well. And we'll meet up sometime in mid-September or whatever, because we still have, a lot of stuff coming up in September. School's getting ready to start. And
when does school start for you guys?
Well, I'm very bitter about it, because our illustrious governor wrote an executive order saying all schools have to start after Labor Day. So
okay, that's when we start. Yeah. So like the Wednesday?
Yeah, it's a Tuesday, actually, the 6th.
Okay.
So it starts the Tuesday after that. To be fair, it makes sense, but for us, the way it used to be before he signed the executive order was the school systems would be able to set what date they would want their kids to come back. And because of this executive order starting it later in the year, they're cutting spring break from being a week to a long weekend. So it's now going to be 4 days instead of a week.
Why? When are you going to end? Because we end like the third week of June. Like we have the same amount of days, but we still get all of our breaks.
That's what he said.
To make it shorter.
Yeah, that's what he says. He says we want it to start the day after Labor Day, and we want to end on June 14th or something like that. So
wow, so you'll be ending like a full week before we do. Wow.
Yeah, so and the thing is,
that's extra summer.
Yeah, it's extra summer, which is good, but at the same time, though, both Dawn and I work.
It's not good for working parents.
Yeah, exactly. And
a week is a lot. Yeah.
Next week, we have to pay a full week of a camp again because their camp shut. Today was the last day of their camp. We had them at all summer. Right. And then we have to pay for this other week at another camp that is affiliated with the one we did. But it's all sports things, and they don't like that because the way the kids do is on Mondays, they do a sports camp. And then Tuesday through Friday, they're at the pool or the lake, which is where the summer thing is. They don't like the sports thing because it's not a lot of fun for them. This is a whole week of sports stuff for them because there's not much else we could do about it. And it costs us extra money. And then we still have another week after that. That we have to cover. But in that end, what we're going to do is because all of our parents are now finally retired. Dawn's mom just retired in May. So the retired parents are going to take, Dawn's going to take a Monday, Tuesday off of that in 2 weeks. And then my mom is going to watch them like on Wednesday and then maybe Wednesday, Thursday. And then we're going to have to take them down to my in-laws' house, Dawn's folks, because Dawn and I have a wedding to go to in Rhode Island on September 1st. Well, we're leaving September 1st. It'll be September 2nd.
Right.
So we'll be taking the train up to Rhode Island. So the kids aren't invited to the wedding. So we have to sit them with my in-laws. So they'll be watching them. So we've got that going on. Then school starts, right after that. So, and we'll see what happens. So we're still going to we still get the Jewish holidays. We're still going to get Christmas break. But the problem now is spring break, which is actually not just for the kids, but it's good for the teachers. They need a break too, is now reduced from a full 10 days to 4 days.
Oh, wow.
So it's going to be a little tough, I think, on that. We'll see how that works out. And then on top of that, we had, and I think you did too, had a very light winter. We had no snow hardly ever.
Yeah.
Who's to say that next winter is not going to be bad? We could get a ton of snow. So what are you going to do with snow days?
No spring break because they're going to take it away from there. Because they take ours away from the spring break.
Because he says you have to end on June 14th, and if that's the case,
then it's got to be 180 days.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Huh? I'm sorry, but for this summer, they should have paid for or compensated the working parents who had to figure out that extra week of camp. Because then next year you could say, okay, I've got a year to plan and figure things out. But the fact that they just threw it at you guys and, all of a sudden you're like, what are we doing this week? And I have to take days off of work. They should have provided something.
They should have. I agree with that. And at the same time, also, it's possible that the camp that we had the kids at this year, because this happened after they'd already set up their camp schedule, maybe now they'll be able to add that extra week. They'll be able to open up an extra week and then that won't be too bad because
so next year,
we'll be covered with their regular, sports.
That's 11 weeks of camp of summer.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a pain.
Because we have 10 weeks to tell me I'm at a point now where I'm like, you can go back to school. I see all these Georgia kids that are already back in school.
I know. I don't Florida and Georgia, I think California also. Because
they're already back.
Yeah, my cousin is out in California, and he showed pictures of his kids going back to school. A friend of mine from high school, she's in Florida. Her kids going back to school already, and then the Georgia, I think Scotty said,
because my birthday was August 3rd, and I think August 4th. He's like, first day of school, and I'm like, what?
Then, of course, then they end May 1st. So.
Yeah, and then he's like, we're done. We're like, what? Although I won't complain because I have a friend who lives outside of LA. I don't know what town, burbs of LA, an hour out. And she's saying that the class averages this year are 38 and 39 kids per
Holy
class.
God.
So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to complain about my 10 weeks of summer.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And that California, in such a way with the population, what have you, they did like a Rubik or whatever, and they're able to totally justify there being that many kids in the class, which we bitch when we get to 25. You know,
that's exactly what I say too. We do too. It's like, holy God.
Yeah.
Wow.
There ain't nobody learning over there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Or, I feel bad, like the children who kind of get lost in the dust, the ones that need that little bit of extra. It's impossible for the teacher to help them or do anything. It's
Exactly.
bad. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we'll work it out. But yeah, as I said, the next time we roll around, it'll probably be closer to fall. We'll figure something out. I got a couple ideas. I'll run past you in a little bit.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yep. So you have a great rest of your summer, Jerry.
Me too.
I may or may not, I don't know, I may or may not decide to do an extra episode of Dylanknows this week. I kind of am itching to talk about my vacation because some interesting stuff happened, and there's some other interesting stuff that's going on, like the total solar eclipse is on Monday. So I'll talk a little bit about that also. So that'll be.
I have to find out where you make those boxes because all the glasses are like completely sold out. There's a way to like you cut a hole in a box.
Yeah, and project it. Yeah.
How do you do that? Yeah.
If you look it up on the line, I think there's probably going to be a million ways to look at it. I think right now, unfortunately though, I think right now they're calling for rain up here on Monday. Let me see what it says. Partly sunny. Well, partly sunny, so we might actually be able to see it. I mean, rain's coming.
And it's like 1:30ish, right? Because someone told us what town to go to, and to get there by 1, sort of get in position.
Yeah.
But I didn't know exactly.
Yeah, because it's the first total solar eclipse that everybody in the United States can see, because there are aspects of other parts of the United States that can see total solar eclipses because it happens more often than you think, but you just can't always see them. We get a lot of partials and stuff like that. This is gonna be, and it's like the last one for like 100 years or something like that that we're gonna be able to see. We'll get partials and stuff like that, but we'll be able to see partials. And
there was one when we were in college. I want to say it was our freshman or sophomore year.
Yeah.
Because I remember I left class, I was walking, I saw everybody with like the boxes because they didn't have the glasses back then, and all of a sudden it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It was pitch black. It was the coolest thing, and it lasted for like however many minutes.
Yeah, like 15
and then it was daytime again. I'm like, this is cool. Yeah.
Just watch out for the lizard people. That's my funniest conspiracy theory right now is that, when the solar eclipse happens, the lizard people are going to come out. And I want to see if it was an Onion thing. It's like, no, it wasn't. It was an actual, somebody actually wrote this article and said, watch out for the lizard people. I was like, really? Seriously? I want to talk about that also.
The summer I've had, the lizard, I welcome our lizard overlords. Yeah. Go ahead, bring it.
Absolutely. So I may or may not do another show tomorrow or Sunday. I probably won't because we got stuff we need to do. But my show next week will probably be my vacation and everything else about that. MJ and I are still trying to work out our things because he's had a hard summer also. So we're working that out as well too. So I'll talk to him and we'll get back to our comic thing. But glorious September, glorious fall is in the horizon. I can see it. I can reach it. I was like,
Watch, it's going to be 100 in September, like every freaking day.
It probably will be too.
And I'll be like, there's fall, Dylan.
It's been 70 in August.
Yeah.
Exactly. We'll see. All right. On that note, thank you again, Jerry. We'll do this again next month, hopefully. Everyone else out there, come back, watch my show maybe later this weekend or at least by next weekend. All right, everybody. If I don't do one this week, happy birthday to my son Noah. His birthday is next Friday. So
happy birthday, Noah.
8-year-old. Yeah, big 8-year-old. So
the big 8.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
It was so funny. We got some of his presents from Amazon today, and they came at dinner time. So we're sitting down for dinner, and I hear the knock on the door, and I open them, and I bring them out. And Noah says, "Those probably aren't for my birthday, are they?" And I was like, "Nope, it's not." Like,
he knows.
Yeah, they actually are.
He's getting old. He knows.
All right. All right, Jerry. Take care, and I'll see you soon. All right. Bye, guys.
Good night.